What's up, guys and gals of the movement world? It's Sean Mishka, Football Beyond the Stats, in our movement play of the week for week 15. And of course, as you can see, based on my dress and apparel, it is a holiday week. It's Christmas week. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year to you and yours out there for this week. Hopefully, you all are wearing your Christmas attire and your Christmas sweater to stay as festive as humanly possible, as I am attempting to as well. Because of it being Christmas, and more importantly, because of it being, at least more importantly, from the National Football League and American football world, more importantly, being week 15, here with just 4 games left to go going into the week 15 National Football League season. We really get a chance, as I mentioned last week, to dive into the dexterous movement of the game's best. We see the players who are performers versus those who might be pretenders. We see the skill really begin to shine of the most dexterous movers in the National Football League, particularly as we investigate Bernstein's application of the definition of dexterity. The second half or the second portion of that definition being the ability to solve any emerging movement problem under any conditions. And as those conditions continue to escalate, as weeks pass by, and as the stakes get raised, we really begin to determine what athletes are able to do under the constraints and some of the key performance inhibitors of, namely, pressure and anxiety, but also fatigue, and really kind of trying to see the coalescing constraints there of an illustrative case study week by week as we get closer and closer to the National Football League playoffs, excuse me. Now this week, week 15, I couldn't decide on just one play because we had a couple of really dexterous, really skillful performers who came to play in week 15. The first one being in this first play, as you can see, Travis Kelce. So Travis Kelce obviously is a several-time all-movement team member. On this given week or on this given game against the Los Angeles Chargers on Thursday Night Football last week, with the score tied 28-28, and the Chiefs driving in overtime. Travis Kelce showed us why he has been an all movement team member on a number of occasions. It's something that I've talked about actually quite significantly or quite extensively in the past in regards to Kelce. I used to sort of just look at him as this being this really creative and fluid route runner who maybe didn't have all the attuned and adaptable nature of his movement skill once he got a ball in his hands and he was trying to make something happen after the catch. But 2 or 3 years ago, he actually really started to add a bunch of nuances, a bunch of layers to his already pretty polished skill. In particular, he started to become much more authentic in space with a ball in his hand, really dexterous across situations, meaning within tight spaces all the way out to bigger ones. And you're going to see a little bit of that here today as he looks to solve a movement problem in the phone booth in local or micro problem movement number one of this play, and then begins to show off his open field movement skill. We really start to see his overall adaptability, but we also see his authenticity, his creativity, and his novelty within his movement skill set really start to show a bit. And that's something that his craft and his form of life is certainly built on. Again, significant conditions within this game. We see the score, it's in overtime. The Chargers have already had the ball, so the next score wins. And obviously, that all kind of plays out here because it is late in the game. We also have to think about what Travis Kelce might have been doing prior to this point. Um, at this time, he has 9 catches, and he's in the midst of a career day, even though this one's about to go for 34. And I'm not a mathematician, as I proved last week on our movement play of the week when I did our calculations for Tyler Huntley's rushing average, but he ended up having 10 catches. Travis Kelce, that is, had 10 catches for 191 yards, 2 touchdowns, this being the second one. And earlier on this game, or within this game, as the Chiefs were really trying to put their stamp upon the game, he had a 69-yard touchdown. So all of those things really factor in. The other thing that factors in is obviously this game is being played at the new SoFi Field in Los Angeles, California. So the home of the Chargers. Again, Thursday night football. All eyes are on this game only, in overtime. But again, a thing that I want to point out is the Chiefs, the record there of the Chiefs and the Chargers. The record being 9-4 for the Chiefs and 8-5 for the Chargers. What that means is obviously this being a divisional game, that it essentially is worth two games in the standings if we want to think about it like that. So if the Chargers were to win, they sort of even and level the playing field a bit. Both teams being 9-5 then at that time, and obviously they kind of show a little bit more of their balance within the AFC West. But if the Chiefs can win, they essentially take a two-game advantage over the Chargers. And that obviously means something when we talk about the playoff picture, which is now less than a month away. The other thing that we don't know at this moment is obviously the Chiefs are also in contention for the number one seed, kind of neck and neck, along with the Patriots, who will play into our second play. So, as we have in previous weeks, let's go ahead and play this bad boy out in full speed if we could. I think we're in full speed mode here. Let's just make sure. Let's and I go. Of course, now that I say that, we are in half speed, so you can see which way I typically watch this. Let's go ahead and go right back to the beginning here. Bear with me. You can see Travis Kelce across the middle, make a move on a couple of guys, and then, like I said, get into the open field and show off some of those open field running movement skills. Obviously, there's going to be a number of different things that we're going to be able to watch here. Let's go ahead and see that one more time through. Of course, it has to glitch on me, it has to buffer. But I think you guys will get the gist of it, especially because we're about to walk through this as we typically will at 50% speed. Let me go ahead and fast forward so you can see it from a couple different views here, because these views now, guys and gals, are going to be highly informative as we see the Chiefs celebrating here, the walk-off winner by their all-pro, all-world, all-movement team member in Travis Kelce. It's going to be highly informative. These other views are going to be highly informative to us being able to answer the question, as we do week in and week out: what is the athlete attuning to, and what are they adapting around? So let's go ahead and let it go to our other view here before we go at 50% speed. Go and pick out what is he attuning to, what is he adapting around. That rhetorical question that you guys have heard me ask over and over and over again this year, as we think about how an athlete is really becoming one with the problems in the world. As you can already probably guess, there's going to be a bunch of different things that we're going to be able to highlight and draw our attention to. When we really think about this, and obviously, as I mentioned earlier, with Travis Kelce's form of life and really how it has evolved, he used to be extraordinarily dexterous, extraordinarily capable of getting open in any situation. He still is. But one of those things that we saw materialize, one of those things that we saw emerge, and really the evolution within his movement skill, is this true attunement and adaptability. Attunement being the sensitivity to the opportunities of the problem or within the problem, and the adaptability around what those opportunities were calling for him, or how they were calling for him to act. And so as we look to this now, we can really start to determine how he might be what he might be perceiving, how he may be intending to act, and ultimately some of the options for acting. Travis Kelce also being a highly creative and sometimes novel mover. Look back to a couple of years ago when he was featured on a movement play of the week, on a diving hurdle type of play at the end zone. We look back a couple of years ago, or maybe that was last year now, him on a lateral type of play. there's just numerous situations that, as we think back to who Travis Kelce is and how he moves and solves problems in the world, he isn't restricted. He isn't keeping himself in a container. It really is sort of that Bruce Lee idea of honestly and authentically expressing himself within his movement, honestly and authentically expressing himself within his movement. And I think you see that time and time again, whether it's in these really close interactions or whether he's in the open field and in space, or whether it's just like we're going to see at the end of this play, him celebrating en route to just knocking off this walk-off winner, right off the bat, we see him at this 50% speed. He lets Patrick Mahomes know right here, like, listen, pal, I'm open. He's perceiving, we see what he's perceiving. He's telling his quarterback, he's telling his guy, I'm open. I know I can do something with how they're playing me. Give me the opportunity, give me the chance. He's signaling that. So we see that right off the bat, this idea of shared affordances. And of course, for a quarterback to see a guy, see him confident, see him ready and able, open and responsive to solving the problem that's in front of him. Obviously, there is no more greater confidence for a quarterback than a guy willing to do that, especially when it's your all pro or all movement team member, than in this case, right? No, there isn't anyone on the field, Tyreek Hill included, that Patrick Mahomes has greater confidence in than number 87. So as soon as he sees him, this shared affordance, and for a quarterback to throw a guy a ball, there's a shared affordance there to begin with. That quarterback is perceiving that his receiver, this case a tight end, has the opportunity to do something with that. So shared affordance, perceived and selected and acted upon. Um, we see at the time of the catch, if I could pause here, as he catches and receives the ball, we have 3 to 4 defenders, obviously. If of course I can get my stamper out here. This guy who just got out of this interaction here, here, and here. So we see those 4. It's essentially a 2v4 type of situation, because obviously if you look at my mouse here, we can see number 13. So Travis Kelce knows that based on his initial intentions is obviously to pick up the first down marker, which, as we can see, is right here on the yellow line, right? But as we think about what it is that he could do, or how it is that he could act, again, we're always thinking about simultaneous and successive affordances. What opportunities are there within the landscape of this environment that could be calling for Kelce to act in a certain way? And we would be thinking about that for any given player, right? We could look at the defenders and think the same thing to ourselves. But in this case, we have to think for Kelce's situation, if I can get my spotlight out, he would be thinking and perceiving, in my opinion, well, obviously, first and foremost, being attuned to the specifying information that is the ball. He must secure the ball first and foremost, catch the ball first and foremost. But you can see, even as he catches the ball, he's about to perceive in a closely intertwined and interwoven nature. He could be thinking to himself any number of things. If we let me clear my drawings here and just walk us back moment by moment here. Okay. As he comes out into this route, and we're probably able to see it a little bit better from our other views. So just kind of pump the brakes on that. I'm sorry for getting us a little bit ahead of time. But he likely sees 24 without a doubt, as he's about to catch the ball. But he also likely sees what would be 49, I believe here. We can't see it really clearly right now, but I think this is number 49. We're gonna guess, we can estimate, we can speculate that as he was coming out on this route across the middle, he was able to pick up at least a relative understanding in regards to what 49 was doing, or where 49 could be as he gets open. So it's not like he's trying to put this in his memory bank. He's just attuned to it, sensitive to it, kind of feeling it, probably to a certain degree, and he's going to guess as to where this guy is, though he has a knowledge of the situation because it just played out. So as he catches the ball, and we see him here, being ready to move, we could think about him going in any number of ways or directions, right? He could continue on this path. He could be thinking about throwing this left foot in and maybe trying to get towards that first down marker. Again, this is the landscape of affordances, landscape of opportunities that are all going to invite at different attraction levels. Okay. Those would be for most movers, once they catch a football in this particular position and under this scenario or situation, 1st and 10, he's got about 6 to go here before he would pick up a first down. Most movers are going to go in one of those respective directions. But Travis Kelce, being attuned and adaptable, and also obviously not only attuned and adaptable, but also really creative, not kind of hesitant to not come up with a novel solution. He's going this way. And he's able to do that mostly because, in my opinion, what he's sensitive to. What is he sensitive to? This guy and this guy, most likely. Again, behavior affords behavior. But what we see from them, he uses interpersonal distance and body orientation, movement kinematics from both of these individuals to kind of channel his movement solution that he is going to coordinate, control, and organize here. So he uses this as well, this information, once he catches the ball, to change his intentions. Okay. My guess is, again, he was probably planning on going down the 30 or between the hashes, but he uses the information that he picks up from catching the ball, 24, 40, whatever this guy is, 49, I'm guessing. I think I have that right. Maybe even 43 here too, to a certain degree, to channel the movement solution. Again, perceive to act, act to perceive, but intentions, which can be constantly changing for the most intentional or skilled of movers, are going to remain open and responsive. So as these guys move a certain way, it changes the movement of the most dexterous mover. That was kind of a tongue twister. It changes the movement solutions of the most skillful players. Okay. So the way that this guy is positioned, I'm doing way too much here with my mouse in the wrong way. So let's look at how this guy right here is positioned. This guy, number 24, has Kelce pretty well walled off from continuing on this path. But we can see, even as he turns, he might be thinking to himself in the midst of this catch, if I can just back up just a tad. I'm still starring stuff now. Let's get back here. So watch something for me, if you would, right? If I can pause it at the right moment. And again, this is a little skewed because we're walking frame by frame, and of course, Travis Kelce is solving this problem in the midst of it. But look at as he catches the ball, he secures the ball, he understands where 24 is, and he understands that options in these paths are probably taken away. He begins to turn, and as he does so, he takes in information from 49. So he uses that information, and maybe also from 43, who is filling this space down the hashes or in between the hashes, where I said earlier he likely might be able to go, to use that to say, I think there might be some space to my right. I think there might be some space to the wide side of the field here. So in the midst of the action, he adapts to just throw that foot, to go from a high position down to a low coiled one for him, even though it's going to be a little staggered. So how both of these guys are moving, here, okay, 49, 24, likely 43 as well, then channels the movement on a multiple levels. The perceptions, the information he's picking up, the intentions, how he's aiming to act, and ultimately the controllability, the flexibility, and the adaptability of the actions. Pretty cool stuff. Okay. So he uses that then to run in a more curvilinear fashion to clear all these guys. Okay. He's got them all in a really great place to open up this opportunity. Let me get back if I can and pause it. Okay. Look at the space. There's a lot of space here. Okay. He knows that based on where this guy is. It's a lot of space here. And if I get my highlighter back out, look it up here. There's going to be a chaser. Okay, another chaser, but this is a lot of space, even in the National Football League. Okay, 7, 9 yards, even for a guy who's going to be starting from a stop, essentially starting from a deceleration to change direction. Still going to be a lot of space. So this guy overrunning, this guy kind of hanging out, frozen a bit. This guy overrunning. Kelce knows here. He's attuned. He's sensitive to that. He's got each one of these three guys in a really disadvantageous place for them and an advantageous place for him. So moving on to local or micro movement problem number 2, we sort of see him go through this curvilinear type of running fashion, and this big cat here chasing him from behind, not really having an option because there's going to be a blocker who's at least going to get in the way. But this dude doesn't really look like he's pursuing in really any, I shouldn't say in an intentional way, but really in a functionally fit fashion. And these guys, 43 and 24, sort of just got embarrassed to a certain degree, just got posterized by 87. When he passes the 25 here, these chasers, though, become something that he can feel, something that he knows. He has knowledge of this situation and problem, that this pursuit is coming from behind. And that's going to apply in our training prescription later on. The other thing that I will make a mention here, and we're going to see it on another view, and of course, I've been able to see this from the All 22, but I can't give you the All 22 because it's part of NFL Game Pass. But on the All 22, at this moment on the 25-yard line, he has perception of a guy way back here, number 36, the deep safety, number 36. And we can see right here, right now, if we can pick this up, he's looking a little to his right. And I will say that if I remember correctly, this deep safety is probably back about here, but he's 15 yards away, or approximately. I think it's like 14.8 when Kelce crosses the 25. Number 36 is, I think, 14.8 yards away. So you're going to see that information, that early detection of that guy, sort of guides and channels the movement solution that we see emerge from Kelce. He picks up speed quickly, and he's able to perceive and then act in a way where he cuts. And we're going to see this guy come into the mix right there. Okay. So I don't want to miss this. I want to point attention to it now. So when we get to the other view, you guys can draw your own attention to it. So notice he picks up speed here. He's got the 3 chasers. That obviously plays into how fast or how he's regulating his movement actions. But now this 36 back here also guiding and channeling how he's about to act. So on the 20, he hits this crossover, and he basically just moves from one movement problem to the next really, really rapidly. In fact, he kind of stopped perceiving these guys directly as he moves in this curvilinear fashion, which doesn't always happen. Oops, sorry about that. Doesn't always happen for the most attuned and adaptable movers, but he is that sensitive at this moment that he just kind of moves on from that movement problem. As he gets to this point, picks up some speed and velocity, understands that 36 is, if I can at least take the liberty of saying where he's coming from. Again, he's 15 yards away when Kelce's at the 25-yard line. So he's moving at about this angular path. And Kelce uses that to channel this pretty high speed crossover type of action right there. Okay. And again, Kelce just moves from one micro problem to another micro movement problem. Watch him hit this crossover on this left leg. And then we see this guy come scooting through. So he executed that cut at about 8 yards away, if I remember, from my NFL Next Generation stat. And we're going to see it from the other view much better. And then on the tail end of this just allows him to celebrate and celebrate early with about 8 to 10 yards to go. And again, as I mentioned earlier, highly authentic mover, honestly, authentically expressing yourself. You know that you just hit the game winner. Let me move ahead here to give us our other view before we talk about a few more of the qualities or how we might be able to go upon driving that or facilitating this type of movement behavior in our own environment. So now, again, 50% speed. We see where he is in relation to those guys. We can see when he gives Patrick Mahomes the target, when he's perceiving his opportunity for a while here. Granted, it's in 50% speed, but watch now where these guys are that form the disposition of this problem, knowing full well that the disposition of the problem creates the opportunities of the problem. Look at him go perceive that. And of course, right when I said that, I clicked out of the video. So perceive to act, act to perceive, open, responsive, changing, skilled intentionality. Guys and gals, this isn't like the cleanest change of direction, okay, ever. But again, this is deceleration, change of direction in context, meaning true agility. Perceive to act, act to perceive, solve the problem in its disposition of that which what's in front of you. Okay. Look at as he comes down with that ball as he begins to turn. He understands that there's a cat over here, but there's actually more space here than probably we would have initially thought. Okay. But notice Kelce's a big dude as well. And both of these guys, are coming in pretty hot to close off that space, right? We can see their position, we can see their pursuit, and we can kind of see and determine in a blink of an eye what it is that Kelce is picking up. And he's picking up that affordance now exists over here. As long as I have the capability of moving in that way, in Kelce's case, an all mover, he does. Now, as he crosses the 25 here, we will start to see this other guy come into the picture. Now we see him right up here. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see that with me. Okay. Right there. Let me back up just a tad so we can see him as he enters the picture. I apologize as I scroll back and forth between different tools. Look at him hit his cut already here at the 20 because we can see this guy just barely in the picture. Like I said, he's almost 8 yards away when Kelce executes this crossover. But you can see the angle he's coming in at and why Kelce might have done that, which what he does, or how he uses that information of his path. And look at this position. Because of Kelce's crossover, again, behavior affords behavior, and that reciprocal mutual relationship goes both ways. So we got a couple more views to see here. And so I will just let this play out before we dive into what it is that he could do differently. But as we see, intertwined, interwoven, integrated nature of perceptions, intentions, and actions. Okay. Hopefully all of that becomes really obvious here as I give you an opportunity to see this again. And then we'll talk about the two main things that I believe that we could do within our own learning environments. Look at these eyes. And flexible, adaptable, adjustable within his movement actions. And he is decisive in this scenario and situation, feeling it as much in the zone as we can possibly be, or as we can expect an NFL player to be under these scenarios and situations. So, tail end here, guys and gals, just bear with me. What can we do to facilitate this type of movement skill? I think first and foremost, agility within context with multiple opponents. Have them come from different angles, different distances, different positions, different movers. So I'm talking about that first local movement problem. Set up scenarios or situations where individuals have to perceive various information, a variety of informational sources. So guys being in different positions, guys being again at different distances, moving at different speeds, anywhere from probably 1v1 to 1v4, maybe again 2v4, like we saw in this particular situation. Have a guy catch a ball, have to turn, try to determine really quickly where it is that they could go, what it is that their landscape of opportunities or affordances is calling for them to do. Secondly, more work with chasing opponents. And when you have those chasing opponents, as we saw where there were three chasers with the Travis Kelce situation on local movement problem number 2, have some times in some instances where there's an individual out in front with chasers moving from behind. I often see people use chasing work with the best of intentions in mind, but there's no problem to solve out in front, as it often will be for skilled movers in context, especially at this level. So, with one, two, or three chasers from behind, with 1 to 2 guys out in front, requires a more complex movement problem with constant attuned and adaptable nature, really a movement problem that will never present itself in the same way 2 times in a row. So really repetition without repetition for not only the problem on the problem's disposition, but also the solution. So I think that's it for video number 1 here of week 15 NFL's or football beyond the stats NFL 2021 season. And I will see you guys hopefully in the Jonathan Taylor video. Now, again, if you're new here, hit subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. I would love to interact with y'all. Please give me some love if you feel as though there was something that was necessary and reward and deserving of it. If I don't see you in video number 2 and you elect to wait for it, have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.